A question I am asked a lot, and a question you may be asking yourself from time to time or frequently is, why are my hamstrings tight? And the answer is, well, rowing. Let me explain. It is a very common thing for athletes in rowing to have tight hamstrings. Athletes are often left wondering why and what they can do about it. In rowing, we preach length and flexibility, but one area that never reaches full range of motion in the rowing stroke is the hamstrings. And let me explain why. As we take our rowing stroke and we press forward, we're using the entirety of the leg and core and back and arms to drive ourselves through. Once we have finished the stroke and the arms and the body start to come forward, just before those hamstrings really start to lengthen, the knees are going to rise up. And that is really because we're looking to blend rowing strokes. We're looking to keep a sequence, and that basic sequence during the drive is legs, body, arms, and on the recovery is arms, body, legs. But we don't, in either direction, row like a robot. So it's not legs, body, arms, arms, body, legs. If it were that way, arms, body, legs, in that body portion on the recovery, we would actually be in a position that is allowing the hamstrings to continue to lengthen as we move forward. But because rowing is best served when you're blending the edges of each aspect of the rowing strokes, legs, body, arms, arms, body, legs, we don't quite ever get the body forward enough that we're lengthening the hamstrings before the knees start to rise on the recovery. And because of this, in the natural rowing motion, the hamstrings are constantly shortening each stroke as the knees rise. And they're never fully lengthening before the next stroke when the knees rise. And so in a lot of ways, it's this constant shortening of the hamstrings that can lead to a decrease in the range of motion for athletes. So what can we do about that? Well, that's why drills exist in rowing and why they're so very important. And there are a number of drills that we can do to ensure that our hamstrings are operating within a full range of motion and that we have warmed up and elongated our hamstrings each and every workout before we start. One of the best drills to work on relaxing and lengthening our hamstrings is through the body and arms. And it's just as it sounds. The legs are going to stay nice and straight. The knees do not need to be locked out. It's okay to have soft knees. So you don't need to be flexing your quads to hold your knees down. You just want to think my legs are lengthened. That actually facilitates our ability to tilt a little bit more easily and facilitates the stretch in the hamstrings. But it is exactly as it sounds. It is the arms out, body forward, then lean and squeeze. And so what we're looking to do here is to tilt from our hips and each stroke lean just a little further than we would in normal rowing. So you can see I'm exaggerating that tilt forward with the body, each stroke as I come forward. And so this drill is great for lengthening and strengthening range of motion through the hips, through the hamstrings, making sure that we're staying nice and long, continuing to improve that range of motion and our ability to reach forward. This is way further forward than I would reach in a normal rowing stroke. But for the purpose of the drill, for the purpose of warming up and elongating our hamstrings, it's a nice, active, and dynamic warm-up. Another drill we can utilize to help warm up and lengthen our hamstrings before we get into rowing sets or tests or whatever it is that we're doing is the body over pause. And in this, we're going to take a stroke, let the arms and body come forward, and we're going to pause. In the same way with the body and arms, we exaggerated that tilt a little bit further forward than we need. Not a bad thing to do that here. It is a drill. We use drills to exaggerate. So let's exaggerate that tilt and reach, and then roll forward. exaggerate that tilt and reach, and roll forward. After you've done this for 5 or 10 strokes, you'll come off the pause, take normal strokes, and hold on to just a little bit of that feel of that extra tilt forward. Hang on to just a little of that exaggeration that you created through the drilling. Making sure that the hamstrings are able to operate within the range necessary for rowing, and a little bit more so, can be really beneficial in creating freedom of movement on your rowing stroke. If we don't pay attention to the hamstrings and their full range of motion, we can end up in a situation through constantly shortening the hamstring as the knees rise, knees rise, knees rise, and never lengthening the hamstrings in the normal rowing stroke. You can end up in a situation where you can have some tightness, and that tightness can reside in your hamstrings, potentially even in your low back. So we want to make sure that we are staying true to the idea that a loose muscle is a fast muscle. And so we really want those hamstrings to be elongated and free to move and ready to contract when they are needed most during the drive of the rowing stroke. If you found this video useful, please like, subscribe. Know there's even more rowing content coming to you soon.